It's a beautiful Saturday and we are here again to give you nothing but the best, and I'm your host Amos, aka Amore. Apologies for starting the show a bit late. We had some challenges, but this is Off the Pitch, the show that comes your way every Saturday. That's at 9:30 hours, and this is courtesy of Big Stakers. And I'm not alone on set as always. I'm joined by one Augustine. Augustine, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Amos. It's always a pleasure to be here. We return all the glory and honor to the Most High God. And good morning to our viewers out there.
Hope you managed to play Kandeke, Augustine, on Big Stakers. Huh?
Yeah. But I won't tell you the results.
We'll just take that short break and we get back and discuss the issues. We saw our Copper Queens making us proud by qualifying to the finals of the COSAFA Cup. But for now, we'll just take that short break.
My name is Christopher Katongo. Continue watching Off the Pitch on Camnet TV.
Hey, join me, Amazing Katamanda, on the weekly gospel show for those exciting and interesting interviews with your favorite gospel
Hold on to me when it's too dark to see. You cannot put your power back to Hallelujah.
And this time around, we are bringing to you entertainment news and the countdown, as you guys are able to nominate your top 3 favorite music videos of the week. Remember, it's every Saturday at 10:45. You can also catch repeats every Monday at 10 hours. Camnet TV is not just another time.
I'm Given Singuruma. Continue watching Off the Pitch on Camnet TV every Saturday.
We are in the final, wanting to defend our COSAFA trophy. That's the Chipolopolo, the Copper Queens. And we saw an exciting game where we managed to beat our very own Zimbabwe. Augustine, our neighbors, with a go-to-nil scoreline, and we'll face Malawi in the final.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very good result looking at where we've come from during this journey to reach this far. I think it's been an interesting COSAFA because we do not have those foreign-based players. He's gone with all local players, and it's the assistant who is leading the line at the COSAFA, who is Coach Florence. And you could see that the girls that are given the opportunity, they have took it very, very well. You look at the likes of Sarah Jerry, who scored to take us to the final. You have got Frida Kawe, who scored a hat-trick in the game against Comoros. I think this is very, very good in the sense that it gives us enough strength and depth going forward. I think the COSAFA tournament is not all about winning it, but it's giving young talent this big platform to try and perform and excel. I think what we've seen is that we've now identified players that can step in areas where we have always had questions, especially in defense. We have always wondered if Beremu is not there, if Martha Tembo is not there, who's going to step up to the plate. We've seen that young girls like Esther Siamfuko, they've held a good account of themselves. Pauline Zuru playing at the heart of defense with Lusho Mwemba. She's been very, very brilliant in both boxes. She's dominated the aerial balls. She's very good on the ground. We've seen these young girls like Frida will come into this big stage and embrace it. Sarah Jerry likewise. We've seen Evelyn Susan Katongo. She's growing now in the tournament. I think she played the game against when we beat Angola. She created about 2 chances in that game, which was scored. She was playing with a bit of illness. She wasn't fully fit, but she managed to step into the game and do very well for the Copper Queens. I think what we've seen is that even in the goalkeeping department, we've had the young Zesco goalkeeper Letitia Lungu being between the sticks, and we saw in the last game it was Ngambo Msole who was given a chance after a very huge absence away from football. Now she's back at GBFC, and she was played at the COSAFA. I think this is very good going forward, looking at the qualifiers that we have coming forward, looking at the Olympics and the Africa Cup qualifiers. We need to try and stamp our authority in these qualifiers, and this is very, very good for the girls. They've managed to go all the way up to the final. We started with a goalless draw. A lot of question marks came about surrounding our goal scoring ability, because you remember almost two of our leading scorers in the league in Simola Mapepa and Ochumba Oseke are not part of this team. So up front we went with the young girls that NLS in central midfield. She's been very, very good. You could see these are girls that have got huge potential going forward, and they've gone and did what the COSAFA. Second game we had a very big challenge when we played Angola. We knew it was going to be tough. We won by 3-1. Then we had Comoros, who are the whipping girls in the group. We beat them by 5. Even if we had made about 6 changes in that encounter, we managed to beat Comoros, where Frida Kawe got the hat-trick. And it was a big test against Zimbabwe, who had done very well in their group, and it was always going to be very, very tough going up against Zimbabwe. But we managed to get that 1-0 victory. We had a lot of chances in the game. We could have won it by 3 or 4. We had a lot of control. I think Susan Banda, she's showing a lot of experience and maturity at this level. She's controlling the game, and we've seen now we've gone into the final. We're playing against a very, very dangerous Malawi. We have to be very wary of this Malawi side, because you remember first game in the tournament, they played the host South Africa and beat them by 4-3. It would have easily been 4-1 or 5-1. Yeah. I think towards the very end, Malawi dropped their guard, then allowed South Africa back into the game. But I think we have got what it takes to try and beat Malawi. Looking at the squad that we have, the players that have been at the highest level, played at the World Cup, they're in this squad. They can handle the pressure of playing Malawi. I think I was impressed with what I saw at the Lucas Masterpiece Moripe Stadium in midweek.
Let's support the ladies tomorrow, as they will be taking on Malawi. That's in the final at 15 hours, and hopefully their desire is to defend the title, and it's something that we are looking forward to. But let's not forget Augustine. We've got our young Shipolopolo ladies who will be playing their second leg. That's against the DRC Congo. And the game is scheduled for today. That's at 16 hours. And maybe let me just go through the final squad that traveled. We've got goalkeepers, that's Chitete Monsaka, Christine Hosolo, and the defenders we've got Suilanji Lukundo, Luti Kamanga, Melissa Matava, Roy Dangandu, Jane Mulenga, Martha Banda, Tionge Sambo. In the midfielders department, we've got Tisilile Lungu, Shelly Musamo, Luis Kajia, Luvasipumulo, Evelyn Mwamba, Namute Chileshe. The strikers, we've got Messi Chipasula, Esnat Mukuwe, and Mary Mbewe, Lydia Shamalima, Elizabeth Mwale. These are the names of the ladies that are going to represent us, Augustine, in the second leg. That's against the DRC Congo. And we have to take it to say this won't be an easy game, Augustine, going into this game with an aggregate of 2-2.
Yeah, it won't be an easy game, looking at the fact that they came here and managed to score 2 goals. I think our strikers on the day, Mary Mbewe and Lydia Shamalila, did their job by scoring for the young Copper Queens, but it was at the back where we didn't keep our back door closed. I think we could have done a little bit better, but I think it all comes down to preparation. How well did we prepare this side? You look at Charles, the coach, together with Carol Daka. They've had little time to work with these girls because you remember Alu Wono is no longer with Green Buffaloes. He's the head coach now in Yanga in Tanzania. So the pressure was going to be, how are we going to psych these girls going into this big encounter? Remember the last time these girls met was at the COSAFA, which was last year. We have had a large period without these girls regrouping, and they just regrouped for about 2 weeks, and we had a team of about 35 players in the team, and they had to work on a lot of things to try and
Select
get
the
them
best,
up to
huh?
speed. So you get the point. I think it was very, very tough. You work with 85 players, you have to work on their fitness, tactic-wise, and then work on their mentality. So it was always going to be difficult within a short space to try and create those chemistry in the team within 2 weeks before a very crucial World Cup qualifier, which is against Congo, who are developing when it comes to women's football. I think the girls started very well at Nkoloma Stadium, very, very brightly. I think Chipasula, one of Messi's Chipasula, very intelligent footballer. She knows when to make a pass, and Pumulo Rubasi, we always expected that she was going to carry the hopes of the country on her shoulders. I think it's big pressure on the young girls. Our preparation were not up to speed. If we have to be honest, they could have come to these girls at least 3 or 4 times before these qualifiers. But all in all, we need to try and go to Kinshasa this afternoon and get something out of there if we have to qualify. You do realize aggregate still stands here in Zambia, in Africa. So if we get a new scorer and we're out.
We are out.
If we get a 1-1 scorer and we're out. So we need to try and go out there and score a lot of goals. Probably 2 goals to try and silence them, and then we cool down the tempo of the game. But it's not going to be easy. But we do have what it takes. We do have the players on the park that can do the job for us. What we need to do is that we need to try and work together as a unit. But I do expect a very different performance from the one at Nkoloma Stadium, because we've had a little bit of time now to work together. I think from the 18 that played against Congo at Nkoloma Stadium, only 3 players have been added to this squad. So it's basically the same players that will travel, and they've probably created that understanding and chemistry going into this encounter in Congo. And we just wish the girls all the very best.
All the very best to our young Copper Queens as they take on DR Congo. That's in the second leg World Cup qualifier. So, and the aggregate is at 2-2. And hopefully they will be able to get a positive result. Like Augustine has said, it's a matter of aggregate. So the more goals we score, we can, as well as if we beat them by a goal to nil, meaning we pull through and we'll be able to make it. But don't forget to bet with big stakers. These games are there for you to bet on big stakers. All you have to do is just go on our website. That's Big Stakers, register, and you'll be able to play on good odds. And we'll be able to give you those bonuses that you require to get, because once you register for the first time and you make that deposit, we'll give you 200%. That's registering bonus for you, depending on the amount, whatever amount that you deposit in your first deposit with Big Stakers. But Augustine, let's take a look, just a quick one before we look at the draws that were made for the AFCON. We saw our Chipolopolo boys playing a friendly, that's against Egypt, where we managed to allow a goal that's in the 90 plus. I mean, it's something that was hurting a bit though. But just a quick one, this is the first 10, Augustine, that started the game. We had Francis Mwanza, that was in goal, Benedict Chepeshi, Dominic Chanda, Luambom Sonda, Kelvin Kapumbu, Topila Sunzu, Emmanuel Banda, Patson Daka, Kings Kangwa, Fashion Sakala, Lodrick Kawe. These are the players that started the friendly game, Augustine, and we've got another friendly, but let's just take a look at this one just on a quick note.
I think it was always going to be very difficult playing against Egypt, a highly ranked team in terms of African football, with a lot of stars in their team. You look at El Shanawi, they've got Muhammad Salah and El Neni of Arsenal. So you could always back that it was going to be a very tough night in Dubai for the Copper Bullets. And I think the biggest threat for this Egyptian team is always on the flanks, where Muhammad Salah plays on the right and Trezeguet plays on the left. And but I think our fullbacks held good account of themselves. I think they went toe-to-toe with these 2 players, with Benedict Chepeshi on the right and Rodrigue Kawe on the left, and it had to take a very late goal by the Egyptians. I think it was a ball into the box. I think it was probably one of the few times that Topila Sunzu was beaten in the air, because the striker, was quick to be the first one to get the jump ahead of Topila Sunzu, and he won it. There were a couple of cries that for a foul on that goal, but I do not think it's a foul. If that's given as a foul, it's going to be very soft. But I do understand why people think it was a push, but I think these things happen most of the times when it comes to aerial tussles. There has to be that physical contact. I think Stopira Sunzu on that moment probably didn't judge the flight of the ball as early as the attacker anticipated it. But all in all, I think Francis wants a debut at the biggest stage, made some brilliant saves. You remember he was part of the team which won the COSAFA. He played in the final when Lawrence Mulenga was injured. And you could see that the boy is really pushing to try and be one of the 3 goalkeepers that will go to the Africa Cup of Nations. And at the heart of defense, we had Dominic Chanda and Stopira Sunzu playing together for the first time as a pair. They haven't played as a pair in a competitive match with Benedict Chepeshi and Roderick Awe in fullback areas. I think what Avram Grant has done is that he has made us a little bit better off the ball than we were under Milutin Sojojevic and that guy Kenny Rogers, the guy from Croatia. You could see that we've progressed as a team. It's these areas, it's these fine margins where we could see that at least we are heading forward in terms of our football. I think a couple of years ago, every time when Zambia conceded a set piece, it was panic because we conceded a lot of goals from set pieces. But Avram Grant has come in and he has rectified that area of our game. And we worked without the ball, we closed them very well. We denied them space in our final third. I think when we had the ball, we progressed with it very well. We had moments with Fashion Sakala, Clean Skangwa. We could have gotten the lead. I think there are a lot of positives that we can get from these friendlies, and there are grey areas there we need to work on. Probably, I would have loved to see a lot of changes, substitutions in the game, because it's all about creating the strength and depth in the team. When you are bringing in players to try and have a feel of that international game, we saw Francesco Mwepu was one of the players that was introduced, Rally Wadia, Evans Kangwa. I think we would have loved to see more of the players that were on the bench. There are a lot of cries for Cleistas Chamachota. He was sitting on the bench. The coach came and gave an interview, said Chama actually didn't train with the team because he arrived late in Dubai. Probably we will see, maybe we'll get a chance against Uganda. I think another player who I feel should be given a chance is Kelvin Kampamba Mwanga. The start that he has had at Tesco United this season, he has scored 5 goals. He's the leading scorer in the league, and you would love to see more of these players being given an opportunity. But the coach was quickly to single that out, say we have got a very strong bench. So it's always positive to have a very strong bench, but it's all about the chemistry that he's trying to create before a very, very big tournament which is coming ahead of us. I think against North African oppositions, we've always had it difficult when we're playing the people from the north.
And you could see frustration.
Yeah, the last time we beat Egypt was 27 years ago. So it's very, very difficult when we're playing teams like Egypt, and they know how to get to us. They will try and be a little bit physical. They're aggressive in all areas, and they will try to intimidate you. When we have got the ball, Egyptians are North African teams are very, very good being behind the ball. They work as a team, and we can learn 1 or 2 lessons from there to try and get into the Clint Kangwa, Emmanuel Banda. They are creating that understanding in central midfield together with Kelvin Kapumbu. I think it can always get better with when we're in possession, how we use the ball very well. But when it comes to working off the ball, I think you cannot fault these boys. They work very, very hard without the ball. They are closing for each other. They are working for the team. This is something that we didn't see a lot with regards to our Copa Bliss. There were not good relationships on the field. That's why we
they wanted
individual brilliance. There was no togetherness, but you could see that this is a coach that has come and changed the environment. He's made them believe in each other. He wants them to work as a team. He wants them to have that togetherness. I think the message that we got from more of the players that I was speaking to is that this is a guy who pays a lot of attention to detail. He always demands more from all the players to try and get the result from others. And that's what we wanted to see. We wanted to see someone come in and have full control of that dressing room and make big calls because they are paying him a lot of money to do that. I think this is a guy who, when we want to question why is he not playing player A or B, I think you have to remember that this guy took Chelsea to the UEFA Champions League final, lost on penalties against Manchester United. So that's the caliber of coach we are dealing with. He understands football beyond what we see in the field of play. So it takes a lot for players that are not playing. They need to try and have a good look at themselves. Why am I not playing? Why is the coach not picking me? What do I need to do better for me to be in the team, rather than start being bitter, you start complaining. I think you just need to knock it down and put in the sheets. We've seen that players that have worked their way into this team. Good example is Benedict Chepesh, local player. He's worked in his way in this team. Kelvin Kapumbu, you remember at the start of Aaron Graham's tenure, it was Benson Sakala who was sitting in front of that back four. But Kelvin Kapumbu has worked his way into the thinking of the coach, and is the one who's sitting in front of that back four. You make your own opportunities. The coach will see and he will play you.
We are playing. That's our other friendly, Augustine. That's on Tuesday at 14 hours. And it's against Uganda. Are we going to see Avram Grant going with the first lineup that he used against Egypt, or maybe he'll give other players a chance as well?
I think he has to give a couple of players a chance, because we need to try and see different combinations in certain areas. I think it was probably a blessing in disguise that Franklin Musonda was not available for this encounter, for these two friendlies, because we've now seen the partnership between Stopiran Sunzu and Dominic Chanda. So you do realize if things do not go away, the coach will easily change to Dominic Chanda and Stopiran Sunzu. They are, at least they play together now. They have got that little bit of understanding. In central midfield, we saw Benson Sakala being withdrawn for Kapumbu, and we've seen that this fit now between Kapumbu, Clins Kangwa and Emmanuel Banda looks very, very good. I think probably in the final third we need to try and do the same. We didn't have Fashion Sakala in the previous game. He was suspended. We saw Lamek Banda come in and do a decent job. So we need to try and find the different combinations in the team, different options in terms of how do we approach games of different nature. So we look at these two friendlies. I think the association were very, very smart, picking a North African opposition and a team from East Africa, and probably it was a blessing in disguise, because we were drawn against similar teams from these regions, because Morocco from North Africa and Uganda from the East. So it gives us a little bit of an idea of what to expect when we go into this Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. And I would love to see a change probably in the goalkeeping department. We've been carrying Victor Chawu every time for these qualifiers, but he hasn't been playing. So this is the best chance you can test him. Is he really up to standard when it comes to international football? I think there are a lot of big calls that will be made from now until the time we go to the Africa Cup of Nations, and big ones start with these friendlies, trying different combinations and seeing if they can work. We've seen young Gordon Mafuenta.
Yeah, he came in and
he's one
brought
who
a lot of
probably,
pressure.
yeah, he brings stability in that central midfield. When we are without the ball, he will do all the donkey work. And Avram Grant, I think he has seen a little bit of potential in this young lad who was being played as centre back at Zanaco. He's moved on, he's now in America, but now he's coming for international duty as a central midfield to try and give us enough bodies in that area.
And we are having another friendly. That's on a Tuesday. Mark your calendars, as we'll be taking on Uganda. Hopefully this time around we'll be able to get a clear win. But right about now, we'll just take a very short break as we get back and look at the groups that were made. That's for the AFCON, where we've known our fate in Group F, where we were drawn against Morocco, Congo DR, and Tanzania. But for now, we'll just take that short break.
My name is Christopher Adam. Continue watching Off the Pitch on Camnet TV.
Every Monday to Thursday afternoon, join us for the Lunchtime Cafe. We get to bring to you emerging stories making the headlines, media news, and we remind you of what political leaders and governance actors said back in the days in forgotten stories. We emphasize to you the importance of eating healthy foods and leading healthy lifestyles on the Nutrition Corner. Get the latest updates in sports and critical interviews. Because we value your contribution to national matters, we accord you an opportunity to share your perspectives during the viewers' reactions. The Camnet TV Lunchtime Cafe is an all-inclusive buffet. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
My name is Christopher Katongo. Continue watching Off the Pitch on Camnet TV.
After missing out for a couple of tournaments, that's on the AFCON, and we are back in that major African tournament, and hopefully we would want to showcase what we do and hopefully carry the day and win it just like we did in the past. But anyway, this is the group that we've been drawn in. We are in Group F, Augustine, where we'll be facing Morocco, Congo DR, and Tanzania. And we saw Coach Avram Grant saying this is not an easy group.
Yeah, it's not an easy group. If realistically on paper, it looks like it's one of those tricky groups where you might get an upset. Congo, I think we faced Congo in our last Africa Cup outing when we played them in Equatorial Guinea. We drew 1-1. I think they scored through Yannick Bolasie, and the game ended 1-1. Congo progressed out of that group, and we were eliminated in the group stages. I think Tanzania are one of the teams that have proved to be a surplus package when it comes to African football, yeah, with the way Yanga and Simba have been developing. Morocco look like clear favorites in Group F because of what they did at the FIFA World Cup, but they've always had it tough at the Africa Cup of Nations. Their best performance in recent years was a quarter-final berth. So you could see that Morocco haven't been very good when it comes to playing in Africa, because most of these Morocco players, they grew up in France. There are a few Morocco players that grew up in Morocco and have come through the ranks. Most of them, they grew up in France, then they came to represent Morocco. Probably they do not fancy the African game when it comes to the physicality that it brings, the demand, the weather. I think there are a lot of attributes that slowed down a lot of teams in African football. Yes, they do look like the golden generation, but do they fancy playing in a hot atmosphere in Ivory Coast? I think they will be tested, Morocco, at this Africa Cup of Nations. And if you look at Congo, I do not think they will pose a big of a threat. Looking at the way TP Mazembe has been performing in the CAF Champions and Confederations Cup in the recent years, I think Congo has heavily depended on TP Mazembe to provide the backbone of their team, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if they will go for those foreign players like Chancellor Mbemba, who are based in Europe. I think they will do that, Congo, to try and strengthen their team going into this qualifiers. They're always a tricky customer, Congo, but I do think we will qualify out of this group because it's the top two from each group qualifying to the next round, and 4 best third-place teams. I do not think Zambia can miss on these 2 opportunities. I was looking at the squad that we have. We've got a lot of young players now that are playing in Europe at the highest level. They're doing very, very well. I do fancy our chances of qualifying in this group. I think if we fail to qualify from the group which we are in, I think it will be a failed project with Avram Grant. I think he will be disappointed, really, for us to fail to qualify from that group where we have got Tanzania, Morocco, and Congo.
But let's look at the zeal that most of the players that we have in our squad, Augustine, have, because most of them have never represented us at a major African tournament, which is the AFCON. So now let's look at the zeal that they'll have, and looking at the group that we are. A lot of people are taking it to say Morocco are our biggest threat in this group, but you know how mostly we are a surprise package. Would manage to beat Morocco and maybe get beaten by these two DR Congo and Tanzania. I think
Africa Cup of Nations, the previous time we went there, we were under Ona Janza. We were eliminated in the group stages. We had a similar opponent. It was Tunisia, Congo, and we got beat in the group stages, and we packed our bags and we were back home. Players that were at that Africa Cup of Nations, the likes of Luambo Msonda, Rodri Kawe, we've got Evans Kangwa, he's been part of the team at the Africa Cup of Nations, Stopera Sonzu. So we do not have a lot of players who've played at this high level. I think for most of our team, I would say it's going to be the first time going to embrace this big stage. So it takes a lot of character to try and perform at the big stage. But I think you look at the junior tournaments that we've been in, we will be comforted the fact that half of this team won the under-20 Africa Cup of Nations. Remember Patson Daka, Fashion Sakala, the likes of Edward Chilufya. They were part of the team that won the Africa Cup of Nations in 2017 and went on to represent the team at the FIFA World Cup when we were eliminated in the quarterfinals by Italy. And we then went on another step when we eliminated Congo Brazzaville in the under-23 qualifiers and qualified to the Africa Cup of Nations, where we were in a group where there was South Africa, Nigeria, and we finished bottom of that group. We couldn't perform at under-23 level. A number of these players were part of the team, the Cleans Kangwa, Lamek Banda, they were part of the team, Patson Daka, Fashion Sakala. So they have had a few of international tournaments at junior level. So it shouldn't be a biggest problem for them to try and go at this big stage and give it a real go. It has to be realistic, and the effort has to be put in a lot of work. And I do look at Avram Grant. He's a very, very demanding coach. He always demands the very best from these players, and I do hope we'll get it right at the Africa Cup of Nations, at least probably reach the quarterfinals. That should be our minimum target.
Let's just look. Let's take a display of how the draws were made, Augustine, so that we look at how other teams were drawn. Because if we look at Group A, Augustine, we've got the hosting nation, which is Cote d'Ivoire, and they're drawn against Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. And going into, maybe let's just
Group A is always very tricky because you look at Nigeria and Ivory Coast, who go out as straight rivals. They will go head to head to try and finish top of that group. Then you've got Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau. Equatorial Guinea have been progressing as a team since the first time they hosted the Africa Cup in 2012 together with Gabon. Yeah. And you could see that they have been, from that tournament, they have been to all the tournaments. After that tournament, they reached the semi-finals and finished fourth when they hosted. They've reached the quarterfinals at the Africa Cup of Nations. So they're going to pose a threat for Nigeria and Ivory Coast. And Ivory Coast, I think, will be clear favorites. The fact that they're hosts. And when you look at Nigeria on the other side, you look at the caliber of players they have, especially up front. They've got a lot of firepower. They've got Alex Iwobi, they've got Tayo Awoni, they've got Kalechi Iheanacho, so they've got the Simons. They've got a lot of options going forward than Nigeria. I think what they need to do is that they need to try and play as a team. There's a lot of division in the way Nigeria play. You look at Victor Osimhen. I think they are blessed with a lot of talent, but they just need to play as a team for them to try and show at this Africa Cup of Nations. The last time they won the Africa Cup was 10 years ago in South Africa when Sandemba scored that famous strike, the free agent going to score at the big stage for Nigeria and winning the Africa Cup for them. Sandemba, we've never heard of him after that. So I think they would want to try and get their hands on the trophy 10 years later with this probably golden generation which they have with the likes of Victor Osimhen, Kalechi Iheanacho, Tayo Awoni. They've got a lot of talent. Nigeria, you are Ademola Lookman, what he's doing at Atalanta. So you could see that they've got a lot of potential, and they've got the character to try and probably go far at the tournament.
Let's look at Group B, Augustine. If we can just have a display of the table, director, so that we look at how Group B is. We've got Egypt, Ghana, Cape Verde, and Mozambique. Those are the teams, Augustine, that are making Group B. And we saw how we made it so hard for the Egypt team, Augustine, just to get a win out of us, and they'll be facing Ghana, Cape Verde, and Mozambique.
Again, in this group, you do think Egypt and Ghana are probably clear favorites to qualify, but Cape Verde will pose a threat. Likewise, Mozambique, it's going to be tricky. I think if they can get a draw out of these big teams, they do stand a chance of beating each other and progressing into the probably best loser. I think they will try and fancy being the best loser, but Egypt, you look at how they played against us. Yes, they do not look very lethal, but when you have got Muhammad Salah, I think you have got a chance. They were slow starters at the previous Africa Cup of Nations, but they managed to go all the way and reach the final. So this is a very, very tricky side. They do not play the most attractive football in the eye, but they do get the job done. They're very, very efficient. Looking at Ghana, they bottled a very big chance at the World Cup against Uruguay. They let their emotions get the best out of them when they played Uruguay. I think that was very, very disappointing, but the big confidence they get from there is that the young boy Muhammad Kudus has grown from the time at that World Cup from the player now he's at West Ham. He scored his first goal over the weekend when they played Newcastle. They will rely on Muhammad Kudus, Jordan Ayew, Andre Ayew to try and lead this Ghana team into the semi-finals, probably reach the final. I think this is the last chance probably for Jordan Dede Ayew to try and win the Africa Cup of Nations. I think he's tried a couple of times, lost two finals against Egypt and against Ivory Coast. So they do think probably this Ghana team might just do something, but it's going to be very, very difficult.
Let's look at the transitioning, Augustine. You've seen a lot of transition in terms of the Ghana national team from time to time, and their performance has dwelled a bit. It's not a Ghana team that we used to know back then, which dawned over Samoa Gyan. We are looking at a new caliber of players, but how do they cause a threat in that group, knowing that each team stands a chance, like you said, Cape Verde might as well want to cause difficulties and challenges?
You're looking at Ghana, I think when we were playing the World Cup qualifiers for Qatar, they went into the game against Nigeria as clear underdogs. No one had fancied Ghana qualifying when they faced Nigeria, but they went against all odds, managed to get a result and qualified over Nigeria and represented Zambia, Africa at the big stage. So you could see that this Ghana team has got that element of surprise. Once they got just settle their issues of allowances, because it's one thing that has been hitting Nigeria and Ghana. Allowances at big tournaments, they do not get settled, and they are always a problem. I think a lot of players, when they speak out, it becomes a problem. Remember at the FIFA World Cup in Brazil, what happened with the Ghana team? They were playing a very crucial game against Portugal on the final day of the group. When they win Portugal, they are through to the round of 16 of the World Cup. Then Sudi Muntari and Kelvin Prince Boateng spoke about allowances. What happened the following morning? They received letters, you have been fired, away from the Ghana team. So it had a huge impact going into a game against Portugal without your two big players in Muntari and Kelvin Prince Boateng, and they went on to lose that game by 3-1, and Portugal progressed. So you could see that it's all about these issues in the Ghana camp. They need to try and sort these issues out, rectify them, and then improve from there. They are playing against an Egyptian team where you will never hear scandal in their camps. I think they are one of the most disciplined national teams you find on the continent. They are very, very united. They understand their roles. Each and every player on the field of play understand their roles. And the fact that El Ali is doing very well, it should worry a lot, because Egypt draw their team from El Ali.
Let's just take a look at our next group. Our director, if we can just have a display of the table so that we look at the next group. Augustine, let's just look at Group C, where we've got Senegal, Cameroon, Guinea, and Gambia. And this is
a group of death,
Augustine, because Gambia, Guinea, these are not underdogs.
You look at the way Gambia played at the previous Africa Cup of Nations. I think against all odds, they punched almost above their weight, and you would fancy them to try and be one of those teams that will be the dark horses at this tournament, together with Guinea. Guinea always surprise package. And they've exported a lot of young players into Europe, who I feel will play a very big role for Guinea going into this Africa Cup. But you do see on the other side, you've got defending champions who are Senegal, and they would want to stamp their authority at this Africa Cup of Nations. Sadio Mane, their star player, has moved on to Saudi Arabia. They have got Ismail Assar, they have got Bounassa, they have got Krimpin Diate, who was part of the Senegal team when they came here to play the under-20, and he has developed to this team. I think there are two players in this group that were at the Africa Cup of Nations in Zambia. One is Krimpin Diate for Senegal, and the Stalo for Cameroon, the left back. I think he played at the under-20 here in Zambia, and he's part of the Cameroon team. You've seen that they recalled Andre Onana for that big Africa qualifier. They needed to qualify, and they did that. Cameroon, I think sometimes they do flatter to deceive. They have got a lot of good players like Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. They've got Vincent Abubakar. They've got Karo Toko Ikambe. These are players that on a given day they would hurt any team. They've got the Brentford striker in Mbuemu. So you could see they've got a lot of firepower going forward. In central midfield, they do have Kunde, very, very good holding midfielder. I rate him very, very highly. He's one of the best in Africa. But what they do not have is a very strong defense that stands the test of time. You could remember they had the big Nkuru who was playing in Turin. But they do not have that now at the heart of defense. With a lot of senior players handing up their boots, they need to try and get that defense sorted out. They will be a threat at this Africa Cup.
I think we are just facing one and the same challenges, Cameroon and Zambia. The transitioning has always been hard.
It's always difficult, yeah.
Those veteran players to these young players, like adapting. But let's take a look at another group director, if we can be able to see Group D, where we've got Algeria, Burkina Faso, Mauritania and Angola. Augustine, a lot of people would say this is one of the easiest groups that Algeria has found themselves in, but let's not shy away from the fact that Burkina Faso has always given a lot of teams at the AFCON challenges.
They do offer a lot of teams with problems. I think now they're being led by young Bertrand Traoré. He's the talisman for this Burkina Faso team. Mauritania, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult AFCON for them. Looking at we'll be facing Angola. They've missed out on a couple of Africa Cup of Nations. They're back at this big stage, and it's a group which is very, very good for Algeria. It looks like Algeria can go out with 9 points. Burkina Faso will probably be second. Angola, I do not think Angola have got what it takes to try and qualify as number 1 or number 2, but probably as best losers. They will try and give it a very, very good shot, Angola, at this Africa Cup of Nations.
Let's take a look at the other group director so that we just run through all the groups that were made. We've got Group E, Augustine, where there is Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, Namibia, one of the groups. For me, I would say a group of death, because all the teams that are in here, Augustine in Group E, are a threat. Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, and Namibia.
Yeah, you look at Tunisia, they've got the veteran Mwabi Kazri, who they've got, I think they had one of the most promising youngsters in Yusuf Musakini a couple of years ago. We thought that he was going to be that big player in Europe. He was wanted by Arsenal, but it never made it for Yusuf Musakini. He went into Middle East, but he will be one of those players for Tunisia at the Africa Cup of Nations, together with Mwabi Kazri, who is their captain, who is leading that team. You look at South Africa, Lau Foster, he started very good for Burnley in the Premier League. He's leading the line. Can he do it at this big stage for South Africa? I think there are a lot of question marks with the South Africa team. They are predominantly of Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport. You struggle to find Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates players now in the national team because they are that poor. They are that poor. But South Africa, I think Bongani Zungu, might be very key for them going into this tournament. Mokoena and central midfield, they will go with a pair which is tried and tested from Mamelodi Sundowns, probably to be the pair that will play in the Africa Cup of Nations. Lau Foster, like I mentioned, he will be leading the line. They will be looking to him for goals. They're on the other side, they are facing a Namibian team who have got a lot of youngsters, with Petros Shitembi, with the Mamelodi Sundowns striker Peter Shalulile leading the Namibian striker. I think it's one of those teams that will cause a threat for most of the teams. Looking at South Africa, they know how South Africa plays the Namibians. They've been playing their qualifiers in South Africa, so they do know what to expect. You look at Dean Hoto, he plays for Orlando Pirates and he's playing with basically these players in the PSL week in, week out. So Namibia will pose a threat in that group. They will be one of those teams. Guinea, interesting. Mali, is it? Mm-hmm. Mali, Mali, they have got
one of the teams, Augustine, that is, I don't know how you would describe it, but Mali used to be that threat of a team, but now it seems each and every tournament that they go to, it's just a result that I think the biggest problem with Mali has been up top. They do not have someone to get them the goals. Mm-hmm. You're looking at their central midfield, they've got Ibn Bissouma in there, they've got Konate Kamara, they've got Haidara, who was once teammate of Patson Daka at Salzburg, is now moved to RB Leipzig. So
Frederick Kanute has done a lot of job to try and get these Mali boys into Europe.
Yeah.
I think they've got a lot of European players in that Mali team, but it's always the struggle to get goals up front that has been the problem for this Mali team. If they can rectify that, I do believe Mali will pose a threat for most of the team at the Africa Cup of Nations.
Anyway, let's just take a final display of how the groups are as we end this. So Augustine,
starting from, if I can start from Group A, probably Ivory Coast and Nigeria will finish 1 and 2, just the way they are right there, 1 and 2. Same applies to Group B. Egypt and Ghana will finish 1 and 2. Cameroon, Senegal, I think another potential banana skin. Guinea will have a big say in how that group spans out.
So it's a competition. Senegal, Cameroon, Guinea.
Exactly. Group D, you look at Algeria and Burkina Faso, they look like favorites. And Tunisia, probably with Mali, will qualify from that group as 1 and 2. And Zambia and Morocco will qualify as 1 and 2. If I pick from the 4 groups where I feel best losers will come from, I think Group A will provide the best loser from that group.
And Group E?
Group F for Zambia will provide the best loser. Group C will also provide the best loser, and probably Group E. I do not think C and B will have a best loser in there.
So those are Augustine's prediction. Mark the date. He's predicted on certain teams that are going to make it through. That's into the round of 60. But anyway, let's just take a look at some of the games that have been played today. We've got our local games that are being played today. Those are games that we are supposed to be played because these are our teams that we are representing as that's in the CAF Champions and CAF Confederation. We've got FC Muza Augustine who will be hosting Forest Rangers, and we've got Green Buffaloes hosting Power Dynamos. That's today. This game will be played at the Imboela Stadium.
Yeah, so I think last weekend was probably the most exciting week when it comes to Zambian football. It was the highest scoring week in our league. We had 24 goals.
It shocked me.
Yeah, it was the highest scoring weekend we've had this season, 24 goals in one weekend. I think we've had low scoring weekends. I think week 1 we had 11 goals. Week 2 we had about 13 goals, and then 11 goals in the following week again. Scoring has been a challenge coming into this season, but I think now Muza and Power Dynamos, they are all out of continental action. They are going to focus fully on the local league. Muza last weekend went to Trident, got a 1-0 victory with Emmanuel Manda scoring for them. Green Eagles, Forest Rangers on the other side, they were in Choma, closer to Mazabuka. They got the lead through Jack Chirwa. Then they were pegged back and beaten 2-1 against Green Eagles. Power Dynamos on the other side, they were down by 1-0 with a brilliant strike by Marvin Jerry from Kasanshi Dynamos to get the lead going into the halftime 1-0. But they showed that they are champions. Champions mentality came in the second half. Andrew Bobo Boeri missing the spot kick, but Saluan Piri was there to score from the rebound. Joshua Budom Tade scored another goal, and Saluan Piri to win a 3-1 comfortable lead for Power Dynamos. On the other side, Green Buffaloes, they have had a slow start to the season. GBFC, they are not very, very good travelers. They have struggled to get victories away from home, and this time around, FC Muza, the last time when they met Forest Rangers were unbeaten, and their unbeaten run was ended in Mazabuka when they faced Muza. Power Dynamos, Power Dynamos have always struggled with GBFC coming to Lusaka. The last time it was a goalless draw at the same venue, Edwin Imboela Stadium. A win for Power Dynamos or FC Muza will see them go top of the league. I think it has got that incentive going into this encounter. They will give it all their very best going into this game. They are the only 2 unbeaten teams in this league, Power Dynamos and FC Muza. They will fancy their chances this afternoon.
A poor result, Augustine. I know this is something that we opt to talk about, and I know one of our very own Ango Rapson, I'm sure he's watching us home, he would have had a say in this. Let's look at the poor start to the season by Ghana, Augustine, playing 7 games and only managing to pick 2 points, one of the biggest clubs that we have, Augustine, in the country and in Africa at large.
Yeah, I think there are lots of problems at Ghana Football Club. They thought the problem was probably based on Quicksilver Chambish, and I thought it was just too early to make that decision at the stage where Ghana Football Club were. And you could see that this season they are playing home games away from home, which is another big challenge for this Ghana team. But they've started the season very poorly, struggling in front of goal. They've only managed to score 2 goals. Harrison Chisala from the spot kick, and another one was a late equalizer against FC Muza. So you could see that this is a team that has got a lot of work for them to try and stay up in the league. They've brought in Ian Bakala. He's brought in his own backroom staff. He brought Sipo Mumbi from Napsa Stars and got Josephat Nkoma as his physical trainer. So you could see that there are a lot of challenges. It's not just about the coaching staff. And going into the January transfer window, I do expect Ghana to make a lot of signings. I think they are being rumored of closing in on the free agent Adrian Chama. Ever since he left Zesco United, he has been moving around trying to find a club. But I hear Ghana are edging ever closer to signing Adrian Chama. He's training with a team. Another one is Tony Kazembe. He was at Power Dynamos. He was released. He hasn't found a club. He's a right back. Tony Kazembe, they are close to signing Tony Kazembe. And another one is Batambuzi. He was a free agent. He left Cow Warriors, and Ian Bakala is a big admirer of Batambuzi. He coached him at Cow Warriors. He wants to bring him to Ghana Football Club. If they can try and bring these 3 signings across the line, try and solidify their defense to stop leaking in goals, probably they will look to January and try and bring creative players and strikers that will get them the goals. I think the young Patrick Gondwe has been very disappointing for Ghana. I think he needs to step up his game. Harrison Chisala, he blows hot and cold every week. So I think it's difficult to find a better rhythm for the team. David Kavala, he hasn't scored any goal. Rambo, they call him. He saved them last season from the jaws of relegation. But this time around, it's very difficult for him to try and carry the team again on his shoulders. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Ghana react. And another big news which came during the week was Joseph Musonda and Albert Kachinga resigning from Prison Leopards.
They switched camps.
24 hours later, they were unveiled as Trident new head coaches
and assistant.
Yeah,
that's how things work.
Very interesting in Zambian football.
You don't sleep, huh?
At the present of this actor Israel Mwanza, then they brought in Marisawa, who was Aaron Marisawa, who was their acting coach during that time, and results hasn't gone in his favor. He lost against Muza, he lost against Red Arrows, and now they've brought in an experienced Albert Kachinga. I think Kachinga is one of the most underrated coaches in the league. You remember 2014 Red Arrows were closer to being relegated. They were in that relegation zone. He went to Red Arrows, rectified, stopped the Red Arrows had gone 8 games losing on a spin. He went there, stopped that, got a draw in his first game against Ron United. Then he went on to save Red Arrows when they had big games in the last 5 games. They had to beat Zanaco, they had to beat Zesco United, they had to beat Cow Warriors, they had to beat Napsa Stars for them to survive relegation that season, and he managed to do that. He goes to Prison Leopards. They were close to being relegated. Do you remember that famous coach at Prison Leopards, and who was later elevated to technical director? He went on, saved Prison Leopards, and since then they have been a Super League team. They are not being the team that this season in the National League, the next season in the Premier League.
They are now consistent.
He stabilized Prison Leopards, and they're at some point closer to getting into those continental brackets, but it wasn't to be. Now he's going to Trident. He has got a huge task on his hands to try and save this Trident team, because they are very good in National League. They are beating teams for fun, but they found the Premier League very unforgiving.
And this is where we're about to come to the end of the show, but before we just close the show, don't forget to bet with Big Stakers, for we are here to give you nothing but those bonuses that you are our clients have to have. So some of the loyalty, you've got that loyalty week where when you bet 10 kwacha for more than 10 times, you'll be entered into a loyalty bonus where you stand a chance to be awarded. That's a 1,000 for you to make those bets, and make sure on your first deposit to deposit 25 kwacha to 1,500 and stand a chance of having a 200% bonus for that. You deposit a 25 kwacha, we give you 200% of that 25 kwacha, which is more than enough for you to make those tickets for you. And for all those who make a bet of 20 kwacha, that's each and every day for a week, you stand a chance to be entered in a raffle draw that will give you a chance to win that 5,000 kwacha. So for now, go and make those tickets with big stakers and win big. Augustine, your final and closing remarks.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be on set, and a big thanks to the entire production team for making this possible, and a big thanks to all our viewers out there for tuning in. We always appreciate your efforts and your support, and I would love to urge each and every one of you trek to the nearest stadium, either Mazabuka to watch Muza versus Forest Rangers, or to the Edwin Imbwela Stadium to watch Power Dynamos facing GBFC. And I would love to wish the girls all the very best in Kinshasa as they play Congo to try and qualify to the World Cup, and all the best to the ladies tomorrow as they play Malawi in the COSAFA final. Thank you.
This is where we've come to the end of the show. I've been your host, Amos, aka Amore, and on behalf of the whole entire production team, not forgetting our sponsors, that's Big Stakers. It's bye-bye. See you next week. Same time, same place. Stay glued for Amazing Katamanda is coming on your screens with the weekly gospel show. We out. Bye-bye.